Hello everyone and welcome back to my F1 2020 career mode with HaasF1 team. Now for today's episode for the Canadian Grand Prix. We have two upgrades coming for the Canadian Grand Prix, which I hope will maybe give us a bit more performance so we can fight a bit more with the other teams around us. I'm sorry for the last episode if there was some problem with the voice part and the video. It was not in sync, so it's not at the same time, so I fixed it for this episode. So yeah, we're just gonna fast forward in the calendar. So apparently there's a season break now coming up in May where the Team HQ is gonna shut down. You can see now it says there, start season break. The Team HQ will shut down over the season break. I guess that's just the summer break that's in like the actual F1 season, so we'll go ahead and do that. Well, that's over now already, so we're 28th of May, just moving forward to the Canadian Grand Prix, going through the calendar.
Okay.
And all our upgrades have gone through, so nothing has failed, which is great for us. And we actually gained some Ardeen points with the weekly resources. And it actually says we jumped Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri in the performance chart. If that is true, that would be awesome. But we're gonna go ahead and maybe try and make one more upgrade, maybe on the engine side, because we haven't done an upgrade on that side on quite a while. So yeah, now we're just fast forward to the 11th of June for the Canadian Grand Prix. Get our weekly resources in, just check the final tire allocation if that's okay, and then go into the race weekend. And here we are then. And as you can see, it's going to be a wet qualifying, it's going to be raining for qualifying, and what's even better, we have actually jumped Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri in the performance chart. We're above them now, and we're really close to Renault and McLaren. So we've made big steps in the last few weeks between the Dutch Grand Prix and now here the Canadian Grand Prix. Just getting a new turbocharger, control electronic, because that was a bit worn out, but now let's go into qualifying. So here we are then, for the start of our first flying lap, and as you can clearly see, it's raining. It's raining, well, I think it's actually stopped. It's still raining, but not that much anymore, but the track is really wet. So intermediate tires for now as we start our first flying lap. I have actually high hopes for this weekend here in Canada, because Canada is normally a track that I really enjoy and I do well at. And seeing the performance chart and how we've jumped Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri, I have really high hopes for this weekend, and maybe we can score some points. But now we're still here in qualifying, moving on to the end of our first flying lap in the rain through the final chicane. Oh, that was a bit warning for corner cutting, but it's still all fine. Across the line, it's P8 in front of Kimi Räikkönen. But now, as you can see, 3.5 minutes to go in qualifying, and the track has dried up. We're going to start with the soft tires, but I noticed at that time we maybe should have waited a bit longer, because the track is going to improve obviously from start to end of qualifying, but even so now, because it was raining, and so at the end of this qualifying the track is going to improve even more than normally. But we'll see. We're currently green, which is what was expected, and we'll see where we're going to end up after this lap. As we come to the back straight now, first and second sector was purple, into the final corner, brake into the chicane, gain a couple of tenths there, open DRS, and now run across the line. It's obviously going to be P1 for now, as you can see on the bottom left, and generally as you can see all the cars come out of the pit lane now. We're going to go for one cooldown lap and then for another flying lap. So here now for the final flying lap with 40 seconds to go in qualifying. So obviously track has improved massively. You will see in the lap that it's going to be, you can see that the track has improved. Obviously the others have a bit more advantage because they have fresh tires and they didn't do a lap as I did, but that was a bit my fault of this miscalculation. But we'll see, we'll try our best and see where we end up as we lock up into the next corner. But we are currently 1 second faster than our time as we now come to the end of qualifying on P9 across the line. What's it going to be? So, P13 for us in qualifying. Lewis Hamilton secures pole position ahead of Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel in P3, Sergio Perez P4, Charles Leclerc P5, Lance Stroll P6, Valtteri Bottas only in P10, Kimi Räikkönen P. This starting grid is great. Alex Albon in P14, our team at P17, and now let's dive into the race.
Hello and welcome to the Ile Notre Dame once again for what promises to be another incredible Canadian Grand Prix at a fiercely competitive circuit, where pole position can often be decided by less than 1/10 of a second. With top speeds of around 210 miles per hour heading into the overtaking opportunity of turn 13, the 2.7 miles of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve are some of the quickest on the Formula One calendar. There are 14 corners in total, with 60% of the lap taken at full throttle, and average lap speeds clock in at about 130 miles per hour. And with me as usual is Anthony Davidson. Why don't we start by talking about Valtteri Bottas? Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he starts from pole position. And starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Perez, Leclerc, Lance Stroll and Hamilton. They've taken a grid penalty. Sainz, Ricciardo, Ocon and Kimi Räikkönen. Kvyat, the captain, Alexander Albon and Norris, Gasly, Grosjean, Antonio Giovinazzi and George Russell. Latifi and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So here we are then, on the grid for the 2020 Canadian Grand Prix, just checking the strategy, get the right fuel on board before we dive into the race. It's going to be an 18-lap race, and let's go. So, building up the revs as we wait for 5 red lights. It's lights out, and away we go. We get an awesome start. Already ahead of Daniel Kvyat, Räikkönen and Ocon beside us as we outbrake them into turn 1, but not really. We're going to try to fight them as we hit Ocon a bit, try to go around the outside of Carlos Sainz, but that doesn't work. But we've moved up into P9 already, ahead of Kimi Räikkönen and Esteban Ocon. But Kimi Räikkönen is now right next to us as we give him the space. But we stay ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, P9, for P13 on the grid in less than half a lap. Great stuff from us.
That's a decent start.
And I'm actually pretty confident that we can hold this position throughout the race, maybe, because the car feels really, really good. I feel comfortable with the car. I feel comfortable with the track. Our car is performing way better than the last 3 weekends or or in the beginning of the season. As we get really close to Carlos Sainz, we have to hit the brakes to not hit him. So yeah, I'm feeling confident about yellow flags behind us. Yeah, I'm feeling confident about this race, but we'll see how it goes. It's a long race, 18 laps. So yeah, we'll see. We're currently on lap 1 as on the back straight, gaining a bit on Carlos Sainz, but not able to make a move as we get really close to him, as we lock up and have to cut the chicane a bit. But that allows us to get right on Carlos' gearbox as we're going to make a move down the inside of Carlos Sainz, up into P8 in lap 1 to 2 of the Canadian Grand Prix. So now we moved to the end of lap 2 and we've actually gained on Daniel Ricciardo as we brake one last time into the final corner, get a great exit out of the final corner. As we slip to Daniel Ricciardo, he covers off the inside. We're going to go around the outside, outbrake him into turn 1. What a move round the outside of Daniel Ricciardo up into P7 on lap 3 of the Canadian Grand Prix. And now we have Lewis Hamilton in front of us. Lewis Hamilton is the car in front of us. As we move to the end of lap 5, and we've actually gained on Lewis Hamilton, who is busy fighting with Lance Stroll. We have the DRS on Lewis Hamilton now, but a bit too far away to make a move. But wow, we are under a second away from Lewis Hamilton at this Canadian Grand Prix, and we've actually gained time on this chicane, but I think we're too far away to make a move into turn 1. Yes, we have to stick behind Hamilton and wait for another chance. So now we move to lap 7, the lap where we're going to come into the pits for our one and only pit stop in this race from soft to medium tires. So Daniel Ricciardo, Kimi Räikkönen and Carlos Sainz are all coming in with us. So busy pit lane right now. So our pit crew is obviously almost at the end of the pit lane. As we change the tires, the Williams mechanics come out and we have to wait. We get held up and Daniel Ricciardo jumps us in the pit lane. Daniel Ricciardo jumped us in the pit lane and is now ahead of us in this Canadian Grand Prix. He managed to get ahead of us, but that is always a problem when your pit crew, it's almost at the end of the pit lane. It's almost likely that you get jumped. That's just what normally happens in this game. So yeah, Daniel Ricciardo jumped us. We're back down right now into P18, but obviously I think it's P8 then on the road, as we actually lost a bit to Daniel Ricciardo in this chicane. Carlos Sainz is now right up our gearbox, or right behind us, as the next corner wasn't great either. Daniel Ricciardo is actually pulling away a bit, but we're still under a second away from him. So we will have DRS for the next straight, but I don't think he will have DRS on Lewis Hamilton as we lock up into the corner. So now onto the back straight, open DRS, but I think we're too far away to maybe gain something. But maybe we can do miracles into the chicane. Our teammates in the pits break into the chicane. Oh, we've cut the corner a bit, I think, but not really though, as we overtake Daniel Ricciardo and we're back up into P8 now of this Canadian Grand Prix, and we've actually jumped Lance Stroll in the pits too. The undercut has worked. We jumped Lance Stroll, who is now behind Daniel Ricciardo too. Great stuff from us. So now we move to lap 11, and Sergio Perez and Hamilton were side to side down the straight, but Lewis Hamilton makes a move on Sergio Perez and is up into P4 of this Canadian Grand Prix. We are in P6 right now. P6. This could very well be the race where we score our first points in our Formula 1 career, and we might even have a chance to get further up the road, as Sergio Perez is now the car in front of us. And we could manage the pace of Lewis Hamilton. We were actually quite close to him all the time, but that was obviously because Perez and Hamilton were fighting. But I'm quite confident that we will be able to score some points in this Grand Prix. We're in P6. We still have, so it's lap 11 and 7 or 8 laps to go. And let's see if we can maybe get closer to Sergio Perez and maybe also make a move on him or pressurize him. But right now we're a bit too far away for that. We'll see how the next laps will go and see what we can do from there. So now we move to lap 12, and the gap to Perez has actually stayed the same over the last lap, but Dan Ricciardo has caught up to us and is now right behind us and pressurizing us. So he found some pace in that Renault car. Obviously the Renault car is a really good car. They're in front of us, but he's going to try to make a move maybe into the next corner, but we push him wide a bit. But no, he gets great acceleration out of the corner, and he's obviously going to have the DRS for the next straight because he was behind us on the detection zone, and we're probably going to be unable to fight it. He just shoots past us. We're going to go into the slipstream. Maybe we can do something on the next straight, break into the chicane, but he's really awkwardly in the middle, and we have to hit the brakes, and we obviously don't have DRS, but Lance Stroll is now right behind us. He came out of nowhere. He's going to go down the inside, but we're going to brake a bit later than him. Maybe try to fight him round the outside, and yes, we keep the position on Lance Stroll. Still P7 from us. Dan Ricciardo overtook, but we keep the position to Lance Stroll. Great stuff from us. But Lance Stroll and also Carlos Sainz are now right behind us. And we have to actually save fuel because I burned a bit too much fuel over this race as we lock up into the last corner. Open DRS, we still have DRS of Daniel Ricciardo, but Lance Stroll is still right behind us. He's gaining from us. He's gonna try to make a move into the next chicane. We outbrake him, push him wide a bit, and yes, we keep ahead of him in P7. Great stuff from us, and he's actually fallen that quick. So now we move on to lap 14. We have DRS on Daniel Ricciardo, so we've actually close back up on him, but we're too far away to pressurize him or to make a move, and Lance Stroll is actually fallen back a bit. So yeah, we have the DRS on Daniel Ricciardo, but we're a bit too far away to make a move into turn 1. So obviously before he had the better pace than us, but currently now we have a bit better pace than him. He's maybe struggling a bit with his tires now. He obviously came into the pits on the same lap as us, so his tire age is around the same as ours. I'm not feeling the tire wear at all until now, so that's a great thing. As into the next corner we slide around a bit as we get awkwardly on the curb, and now Lance Stroll has caught back up on us, and we've lost ground to Daniel Ricciardo. So yeah, we're gonna have, after this lap, 3 more laps to go in this Canadian Grand Prix. Obviously Lance Stroll, the home hero, or the driver whose home race this is, as we awkwardly get out of that corner. But now Lance Stroll is going to be right behind us. He has a DRS, but he's not really gaining on us, which is good for us. So into the next chicane, turn in, and Lance Stroll lost to us in this chicane. So 3 more laps to go in this Canadian Grand Prix. P7, let's see if we can get our first points of our Formula 1 career and the first points of the season. I really hope so, and I'm really optimistic for this. So now we jump into the final lap of this Canadian Grand Prix. We are still in P7. The gap to Daniel Ricciardo has stayed around the same, 1.2 seconds, 1.3. Lance Stroll is still the car behind us, and Carlos Sainz is really also just right behind him. So it's going to be a battle to the finish line for this Canadian Grand Prix as we lock up into the next turn. And the acceleration out of this corner has always been bad throughout the whole race. I don't really know why, but Lance Stroll is going to try to make a move. Maybe he has DRS on us. We're going to outbrake him maybe into the next corner, and yes, we keep in front of Lance Stroll, and he's falling back right in front of Carlos Sainz, who's maybe going to try to make a move on Lance Stroll instead. No, Lance Stroll is still the car behind us, but he won't have DRS. He's over 1 second behind us. But let's watch, and yes, Carlos Sainz overtook Lance Stroll. They're side by side now down the straight, and Carlos Sainz has got in front of Lance Stroll as we brake for the final 2 corners in this Canadian Grand Prix. We're gonna come home in P7 and score our first points of the season. Let's go.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
A truly magnificent drive then, and a great performance from the entire team to secure victory here in Canada. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
Yes, we've scored our first points of our Formula 1 career and season in P7 for Haas F1 team at this Canadian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen wins, and it's a double podium for Ferrari, and Lewis Hamilton in P4, Paris P5, Ricciardo in P6, Kimi Raikkonen, our rival, scores points in P10, Albon misses out on the points, he's in P11, Lando Norris in P14 for McLaren, and Valtteri Bottas only in P15 for Mercedes, our teammate Romain Grosjean in P18. So Lewis Hamilton still leads the championship in front of Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas are the top 3, and the Constructors' Championship, we are up to P7 now with the points we've scored. Great stuff from us, really, really great stuff. What a race this was, really, really, really fun this race. So yeah, that was it, the 2020 Canadian Grand Prix. What a race, this was really, really fun, really fun race to drive. And now we obviously have a lot of R&D points, so we're gonna get some upgrades in for the next race, which is going to be in Austria. So the upgrades will be on the durability side and chassis side. So yeah, 2 upgrades coming in for the, oh no, 3 upgrades, because we still have the engine upgrade we made at the beginning of this episode. So 3 upgrades probably for the next Grand Prix in Austria. So yeah, if you enjoyed this race and this episode, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more content of my F1 2020 career mode. What a race this was. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.